A very good afternoon to you, viewers and listeners. And my name is Vuka. I would like to welcome you to this program this afternoon. And we are joined this afternoon with Lieutenant Mlambo and Treasure Basopo. They're in two different countries. One is obviously in Zimbabwe, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give Mlambo an opportunity, obviously, to come and address us before we can bring in Treasure Basopo. Mlambo, please can you marinate us as I drop off?
Revolutionary salutations, in particular, and special revolutionary greetings to you, Comrade Vuka. Revolutionary greetings to the people of Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for joining us on this special edition of the Tete a Tete that is brought to you by me, Nqobizitha Mlambo, revolutionary intellectual, together with my brother in the struggles for social and economic justice, Comrade Treasure Basopo, who is now based in Norway, Comrade Basopo, aka Comrade Maji. We salute those in the democratization trenches. We salute the suffering masses of our people who are led under the able leadership of the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, the working people of this country, who continue to toil you each and every day to make sure that they make ends meet. Today, we are going to talk about the economics of Zimbabwe, the politics of Zimbabwe, the social aspects to some extent of Zimbabwe. Brother Basopo and I are going to cross-pollinate ideas as per our tradition. We are going to try and give alternatives. We are not only going to criticize, we are not only going to analyze, but we're equally going to give alternatives as to how we can solve the present economic malaise that is affecting our country, which we're all privileged to call home. Brother Basopo will also touch a bit on the situation in Mozambique, as we are all aware that there's instability, political instability, social instability in some parts of Mozambique that do pose a threat not only to Zimbabwe's security situation, but to the entirety of the Southern Africa region. So thank you once again. We look forward to a robust engagement. We look forward to engagements that go beyond attacking persons, but issues that are based on ideas. So, Comrade Basopo, revolutionary salutations. How is Norway?
Revolutionary greetings, comrade brother Nqobizitha Mlambo. Thank you very much for having me on this decorated platform, the Tete a Tete, the people's Tete a Tete, the people's conversation, the people's prato. Norway is doing pretty well, brother Nqobizitha Mlambo. Of course, the Europeans have some ways of doing their things, which are probably more organized and probably more advanced. And I hope Zimbabwe is treating you perfect and fine.
The motherland, brother Basopo, is in trouble, so it is not treating me fine. We are just surviving by the special grace of God. So, brother Basopo, let us get into today's show. Thank you. After a long period of time, we are doing this live Tete a Tete, and I'd like to salute the tech guys, Vuka, for making it possible for us to be hosted on the Zim social media platform on Facebook, the Facebook page. Brother Basopo, Zimbabwe continues to experience a debilitating socio-economic crisis. There's a constant denial by those who are in authority. There's a constant denial by those who are part and parcel of the ruling establishment that this country is not in crisis. But the genuine truth of the matter is that Zimbabwe is in a crisis. The crisis is political, the crisis is social, the crisis is economic. But my bone of contention with those who argue that there's no crisis in this country is: have you ever been at Zupco queues? Have you been to banks and you are told that there are no cash denominations to be disbursed to the people? Have you been to a fuel queue? Have you been to a healthcare institution, a public healthcare institution that is underfunded? So this is what we are experiencing in the motherland, a deep socio-economic crisis. But the economic crisis, brother Basopo, fellow Zimbabweans, I would argue, is a result of a failed neoliberal project that the Minister of Finance and Economic Development, Professor Mtuli, has been implementing through what he calls the Transitional Stabilization Program, or popularly known as TSP in the corridors of those who are ruling the motherland. The TSP is a neoliberal document, a neoliberal macroeconomic framework designed by the government to take from the masses of our people through taxation, the 2% tax, the carbon tax, presumptive tax, AIDS levy, to continue to take from the people of this country, from the little that they have. We are one of the most highly taxed countries in the SADC region. If I'm not mistaken, statistics indicate that 38%, the tax to GDP ratio is over 38% in this country. That is the highest in SADC. Professor Nqobizitha, when he gave Brother Basopo, you might be aware, through reading, when he gave his budget midterm review, he argued that between January and June 2020, the government mobilized 38 billion Zimbabwean dollars. And that 38 billion Zimbabwean dollars was directly coming from revenue, or that revenue was directly coming from taxes. So it means we are being taxed. But the inverse truth is that the taxation, or that which we are paying in the form of tax, is not consistent with the socio-economic condition of our people. So access to healthcare is provided for in Section 76 of the Constitution of this land, is a pipeline dream for the majority. Job creation is a pipeline dream. Our economy is characterized by massive deindustrialization. Our economy is characterized by massive capital flight. There's no investment, foreign direct investment, or even domestic investment flowing massively in this country. If you read Professor Nqobizithe's budget midterm review statement, our country is characterized by a massive unemployment crisis that is affecting us, young people. So the economic crisis now permeates into the social, where you see recent media reports indicating that young people in this country are abusing sanitizers into making them drugs to get high. So these are the socio-economic challenges that the motherland is facing. And we've always argued that to solve this crisis that we have in our economy, we need to socialize the means of production. The means of production must be in the hands of the working people. The means of production must be in the hands of the people of Zimbabwe. That is which was fought for by those who fought to liberate this country. So as a background, this is the crisis that we have economically. We equally have a crisis of governance, a crisis of political swapping, a crisis of political toxicity. There's no the renegotiation or a steady social contract wherein people can sit and dialogue. It is a broken down society characterized by disequilibrium, characterized by discohesion. So we are in trouble as a people, and we hope, Brother Basopo, that the solutions that we proffer on this particular show will go a long way in solving the mess we have in our country. So over to you, Comrade Basopo.
Video. Comrade brother Nqobizitha Mlambo, as you have rightfully put, that we are a country which is living in massive quantities of evidence that are available that this and here is a state failure. It's important also to understand, or to try and look into where we've gone wrong as a country, because in this case, if you look at our topic, we are also trying to look into Mozambique and Zimbabwe. But before getting deep into Mozambique as a country and the crisis of insurgencies and terrorism which is going on there, it is also important for us to take a look into what could be the genesis, what could be the grundnorm, or the oasis of the problem which is in Zimbabwe, which is the source. I think at the center of Zimbabwe's problems, just like any other African country, including Mozambique that you are talking about, just like any other country, including Eritrea, including Central African Republic and the rest of Africa, where we are a continent that has been partitioned, a continent that has been destroyed by the Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885. The primary reason, or the primary reason behind the Berlin Conference was to colonize Africa. When you colonize Africa, make Africa to be the periphery where resources are extracted for the benefit of the metropoles, whom are now being defined as the global north. And this is where and when we began to have a massive and serious problems of the current economic model of resource extraction into feeding or feeding those countries that are supposed to be the industries. Now, fast forward, Africa went into a lot of many colonial battles and many colonial struggles that it has been fighting, which has been on a different level, starting with Ghana, I think in 1957 or 1959, and up to South Africa recently, 1994, Zimbabwe 1980, Mozambique 1975. The generation of the people who participated in the liberation struggle are now clinging on to political power on the states with that aggravation, and they have a massive, serious sense of entitlement, which they have saying that, no, we liberated you, so we deserve to do whatever we can with the nation state. So we have a parasitic, a gerontocratic elite at the center of almost each and every country. For example, Zimbabwe, something that we're also seeing with the ANC, Mozambique, with the Frelimo, which has been in power for the past 45 years. Zimbabwe has also been under massive and serious repression from one party, ZANU-PF, for the past 40 years. So we have this elite group of people who continuously repress their own, who continuously oppress their own citizens. And at the center of their governance model is exclusion. At the center of their governance model is the perpetuation of violence and use of a massive intimidation of the people whom they claim to be their subjects. And Brother Mlambo, that there is no society that has ever thrived on the basis of use of violence as a means of arbitration, or violence as a means of clinging to political power. Just as Jacques Rousseau, one of the most celebrated ancient philosophers, would say that to yield to force is an act of necessity, not of will. It is at best an act of prudence. Jacques Rousseau also proceeded to say that surely it must be admitted that might does not make right, and that the duty of obedience is owed only to the legitimate powers. So when a power which is in governance is not legitimate, it is bound to be resisted by any means necessary or unnecessary, be it subtle or not subtle. So this is the crisis we have. We have failed to transform from the violent colonial establishment into post-colonial democracies. We have gone into autocratic setup and regimes which are at the center of a liberation political parties, and we have failed to come up with modern democratic developmental societies which are defined by their key elements, including the ability to maintain a peace and stability within the countries, and respecting the rights of the people within those particular countries. You can get in, Brother Mlambo.
Thank you very much. Comrade Basopo, thank you so much for your powerful submissions, my brother. It seems that when it comes to the level of ideas and intellectualism, we have reached another level. I have a quick question for you, Brother Basopo. A very quick question. The question is, when we look at the crisis in Zimbabwe, economic crisis, what models can we borrow, Brother Basopo, from Norway? You have been in Norway for quite some time. You know they have a system of governance. They have a system of economic governance. What are the nuggets? I want you to go to town to explain in detail what Zimbabwe can learn from Norway. Number one, on how the Norwegians managed to handle the COVID-19 pandemic. Number two, on how the Norwegians have managed to organize their economy so that the economy works for the many and not for the few. Number three, Brother Basopo, I would like you to talk about how democracy works in Norway. Democratic participation. How do citizens participate, in particular young people, in politics, in business, the level of citizen agency? If you can touch on those aspects so that the people who are watching can have an understanding of what we're trying to do, because we are here to create narratives, to create hegemonic narratives for our own particular generation. So it's over to you, Brother Basopo.
Thanks to you, Comrade Brother Nqobizitha Mlambo. I think, let me just first give a summary of was, if you listen to what I was saying, like I said, the current modern state in the African continent has failed, I think, at the whole continental level, to come up with a modern democratic developmental state. Each and every other country which is thriving, which is doing well, at the center of it there is democracy. At the center of it, there is a modernity. At the center of it, there is that developmental aspect. If why do I want to say democracy works? The good thing about having a democratic setup here in Norway and other Scandinavian countries, or in the Scandinavian region, they use social democracy. But I will tell you what social democracy is all about. But I wanted to say that the good thing about having a democratic state or society is that in a democratic state, they are functional, accountable, and transparent systems. What you guys love to call institutions. There is also,
Yes.
you know, and there is
Yes.
also the issue of having free, fair, and credible elections at a periodic level. And the good thing about elections is that they might not guarantee the best people to be in power, but elections that deliver, they have the ability to self-correct. So when a person who is not good has been elected, in the next election, that person is not guaranteed of continuously being power. We have seen democrats working in the Zambia before the coming in of Edgar Lungu, where you saw different changes of governments, starting from the Kaunda to the Frederick Chilubas, going to different people. And we have
Yes.
seen
Yeah.
that working. So
Mm.
there is that issue of elections at the center of democracy. There's also the issue of allowing the right to speak and the right to freedom of expression is also enunciated in the Zimbabwe National Constitution in the chapter 4, and of course in the entirety of the constitution. So Norway is also allowed from the economic level or from the economic side to allow liberal economic institutions, that is institutions that allow a competition to be there, institutions that allow the business aspect or the corporate world not to be in bed, not to be conniving or to be conflicting with the state or to be conflicting with the current government. That is very important when you talk of the need to see a proper economy boosting. We need to have a massive and serious economy that delivers. So, and also at the center, there is the need for a country to respect the international law. Because why Africa is failing is because of the international law that is in retreat. And I think you have seen international law retreating at three basic levels, brother Nqobizitha Mlambo. There's the issue of customary international law, which is the protocols that a country signed to. For example, starting with the mother of all, which is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948. They have to be respected. And when the countries do not respect, it comes to number two, the issue of deterrence. What are the mechanisms that are there to deal with countries that go against the international law? For example, we've been seeing countries like Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and other countries which are even in Asia failing to respect the international law. And this has not been coming with consequences to act as buffers or to act as stumbling blocks towards the countries that abrogate the international law. So this has been a massive and serious issue. Also, the issues to do with bodies and institutions that have helped in responding to the crisis traditionally. For example, in Africa, we have the AU, we have the SADC, the East African Union, we have the ECOWAS, and so many other different bodies. But how much are they acting to deter countries that go against these laws in order to allow for good governance and peace to be existing within the sovereign nation? So these are some of the things that we see being respected and happening in countries that are developing. They're functional institutions, they respect the international law, they respect their own citizenry and everything like that, which is something which has been missing a matrix in the politics of most African countries. So it's a serious thing. For example, right now we see, in the case of Zimbabwe, we see a government which is failing to respect the international, which is failing to respect even its domestic or sovereign laws, its own domestic and sovereign institution, the constitution. Right now, as we speak, we saw the president of Zimbabwe, National Students Union, Takuzwa Ngadzi Ore, having a press conference with this executive and compatriots. In the midst of the press conference, the boy got abducted by state agents. He was beaten. He was left for the dead. And the people who did that, they are on the camera. Their phones that, their cars that they are using, have been captured, and we saw even their number plates, but nothing happens. No arrest has been effected. We saw so many abductions taking place. The case of Tawanda Mchechiwa having been abducted by the state, the evidence is there that this is the car that was used. Up to now, we have not even seen anyone being arrested. And right now, the state is repressing anyone who questions. In line with Section 62 of the Zimbabwean Constitution, that calls for transparency. Everyone who questions about this information is also becoming a victim of the same. And is that the modern state that you want? Is there any country that will ever move forward in the economy or society-wise when there is such a broken down social contract, when there is such a broken down contact and contract between the government and the governor? So I'm not sure if I've answered your question, brother Mr. Mlambo.
Yes. Thank you so much, Comrade Basopo, for elucidating and actually being poignant on fundamentals. What the Norwegians are doing. What when you talk about a modern state, the issues to do with institutions. In Zimbabwe, the challenge is not that from what I picked from you, the challenge is not that we don't have institutions. The truth of the matter is we do have institutions. But the way and manner in which those institutions function is what that I got from your presentation. So we have institutions established by the Constitution. For example, we've got the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission. We have got the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Those are institutions. We have got the Zimbabwe Media Commission. We have got the National Prosecuting Authority. It's an institution. But the challenge has been on the individuals, from what you were saying, who are occupying these particular institutions. So the argument then, if we quote that book, that brilliant book that you love, Brother Basopo, Why Nations Fail. Institutions are people. That is what Comrade Dario argues in that book, Why Nations Fail. Institutions are people. People make institutions. Institutions become a living reality through good corporate governance. So if you look at our state-owned enterprises or parastatals, the daily boards of this world, the tier ones of this world, the net ones of this world, the zesters of this world, how are they being run? Are they being run as business model where the state has the majority stake of ownership in terms of shares, but there's strict adherence to good ethics, to good corporate governance fundamentals? I think this is what solve the politics, to solve the economics. We cannot run away from the need for strong, sustainable, and robust institutions. And that can only happen when we understand the values that are clearly articulated in the preamble of the Zimbabwean Constitution, the values that are clearly captured in the national objectives when you read Section 2 of the Zimbabwean Constitution, that Zimbabwe shall be a democratic state, Zimbabwe shall adhere by the principles of and the values of equality, freedom, justice, solidarity. But that can only be, the Constitution can only be made a living document when there is active citizen agency. So the issue comes back to citizens. We Zimbabweans, what are we doing to make Zimbabwe a functional, democratic, modern, developmental state? For democracy to work, for constitutionalism to work, to quote what you were saying, Brother Basopo, it needs an active citizenry. Notwithstanding the repression that is there, we need to make our constitution a living document. We need to constantly use, for example, the Constitutional Court to challenge the state in instances where our constitutionally guaranteed rights are violated. So it is us, at the end of the day, the people of Zimbabwe, who make democracy a reality in our motherland through citizen participation. If we continue to agonize and stop organizing, then we are in trouble. As young people, intelligent, well-educated, if we do not publish, we will surely perish. So what are the ideas that we are generating? On the tete-a-tete, we always proffer ideas. Brother Basopo, we always argue that no, for Zimbabwe to develop, we need political change. But that political change does not necessarily mean the change of a face, but it is the total overhaul of a system of governance that was inherited from the regime of Ian Douglas Smith. So it will mean repealing the Maintenance of Order and the Maintenance of Public Order Act. It will mean the repealing of the Access to Information and Protection of Privacy Act. It will mean repealing repressive laws like the Criminal Codification and Reform Act. It will mean making sure that we have parliament that is sovereign, parliament that is independent, parliament that is strong, not scenarios where we have a country that is run by statutory instruments, Brother Basopo. We can't have a scenario where the government introduces an $18 billion economic stimulus package, COVID-19, and it does so outside parliament, whereas parliament is supposed to play a critical oversight role in accordance Section 299 of the Zimbabwean Constitution, in accordance with Section 298 of the Zimbabwean Constitution, which speaks to the values and principles of good public finance management. So, number 3, it will also entail that we have a strong, independent, impartial, but highly skilled judiciary. It's very important. It's very important if I go. So these are the alternatives that we're offering. Some will say, you boys, you're not giving alternatives. We are now giving alternatives. We need the doctrine of separation of powers as is captured by the Constitution of Zimbabwe is very positive. What we want to see is the materialization of the doctrine of the separation of powers. The executive branch in this country is too powerful. So we need to curb executive power. We need to revisit Chapter 5 of the Zimbabwean Constitution and make sure that we trim executive authority. For example, why is it that laws in this country emanate from cabinet? That is the executive branch of Zimbabwe. Why laws should emanate from parliament? You get the point. So we can't have a scenario where we are being run on statutory instruments, we are being run on a partisan basis, we are being run on economics that doesn't work for the people, but the economics that is working for a few. The alternative to the economy, I've touched on the politics, Brother Basopo. The alternative to the economics. What are the alternatives to the economics? Hey, Brother Basopo, you are an economist. I want you to come in on the alternative on the economics. What should be done on the economic front? Because the political front, we've been clear. On the economics front, if we are to get into government today, you and I, Brother Basopo, you are made finance minister or permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development. What are the 3 key areas to solve the economic mess so that we give ideas? That's the role of the tete-a-tete.
Well, Brother Mlambo, I think also before I really come into the nitty-gritties or the modalities or the grundnom of the economy, let me also...
The grundnom!
The grundnom. Let me also just look at the architecture of a modern nation state. These days, or what is now defining the functionality or the efficiency of a modern state these days, it has everything to do with the endogenous elements, with the internal dynamics of that particular country. So before we talk even of the external influence of different things that are outside of the state's ability to control, like technology, fast movement of what you call it, the coming of the internet, especially when it comes to the African countries, and things that are beyond the influence. There's also the function of a modern state, whereby we look at how a country is able to deal with things like corruption, things like the rule of law, things like constitutionalism and constitutionality as the substructure before we talk of the superstructure. So I think what's there, Brother Mlambo, before we get into because I think on top of the economy, we're not offering like what you think, what do you subscribe? I think I also wanted to go quickly to the issue of Mozambique, the instability in Mozambique, and how imperative it is to deal with the situation in Mozambique for the African countries. Because Mozambique is a key player, also is part of the region. To first note, I think it's important to realize that Mozambique as a country is a country that borders with South Africa, it borders with the Eswatini, it borders with the Zambia, Malawi, it also borders with Tanzania at the top or at the north. And close to it, there is Comoros. And further west, there is Madagascar. So the issue in Mozambique, which started in 2017, if you've been following Brother Nqobizitha Mlambo, there has been a massive insurgents, massive terrorist attacks, which have so far moved about 250,000 to 300,000 people, like internal resettling. That is people moving from the north, going further down where there's more peace and tranquility. And if you want to look at the victims of the violence so far, I think about 1,000 people have been killed so far. 700 civilians have been killed, and they've also been attacking the army. They've been taking their what you call it, their weapons. At the same time, they've been attacking and breaking infrastructure. This is very important in the matrix of Southern African politics. You had all the countries that I've mentioned which border the Mozambique. I think we have also been seeing this thing happening in the further north in the African continent when it comes to the coming in of Boko Haram, and how it has been spreading into Niger, how it has been spreading into countries that border with Nigeria. The same thing, we are very much afraid it can also be experienced in the African continent. And if you look at the nexus or the interlinkages between the Mozambican economy, between the Mozambican economy and South African economy and Zimbabwean economy. For example, Zimbabwe, just I think 70% of Zimbabwe's exports Zimbabwe's imports, they are from South Africa, and the exports of Zimbabwe, 40% of them, they also account to South Africa. And also looking into the nexus between South Africa and Mozambique, you see that Mozambique imports quite a lot from Mozambique. Most of its development most of its raw materials for the developing infrastructure, its energy and minerals. Energy is imported from South Africa. The minerals they exported to South Africa. And if the Southern Africa leaves what is happening in Mozambique and fail to deal with its utmost urgency, we are likely going to see violence spread into the rest of the of the Southern Africa. And we don't want to wake up when things have reached another level of a massive destruction, when everyone now has to get into the matrix of terrorism, because Mozambique might be a harbor of ISIS and religious extremism, which you are living to do. Right now, we just said that Zimbabwe sent 30 troops. Some other countries, including South Africa, they have been sending promises, and no one has dealt with that. And it's very pivotal because the issue in Mozambique, for me, countries like Zimbabwe, South Africa, they must take it as a domestic issue.
Yes,
so it's very imperative. So there's the need to institutionalize regional participation and to institutionalize regionalization. If we have been seeing, as you're asking here, for example, in Europe, in the Scandinavian countries, where they work together, Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Iceland, they work together. Look at the EU, how they've managed to create a very strong EU with its own bank and financial institution. But what is happening with SADC? What is happening with the African Union itself? It has been failing to deliver. Whereas we are saying that let us silence guns. I think you've been following the theme of the African Union silencing all guns. But we are also seeing an improvement, what you call it, a graph which is increasing with regards to the use of guns in the continent, to be specific in sub-Saharan Africa, to be specific in Southern Africa. So what are we doing? So economically, like I was saying, brother Nqobizitha, it's very important that we create a strong and functional private sector. The private sector that you're talking of must not be having a conflation like you're seeing happen in other countries with the state, whereby the private sector is supposed to be independent. We have the private sector which is now working, for example, Kudata Gwire, who is now working with the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, taking all the money from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, spinning it into the informal market, and benefiting from that at the expense of the people. We also need to make sure that we deal with systems that protect the employees as an institution and as a constituents. As a matter of fact, there is no economy that functions with a population of sick people, with a population of people who are unhealthy. For the productivity of a human being is inextricably connected, or is a function of the healthiness of that particular person. We have also said that we need to make sure that our institutions are strong and able to allow innovation, because what makes Elon Musk to be talking of big ideas of coming up with Tesla, to be talking of big ideas of coming up with what he calls, like this guy will be moving underground, and right now in 2023 to be taking people into Mars, it is because of the function of the institutions that protect and allow people to be innovative and people to profit here from the big ideas that they're having. So this is critical. We need to make sure that people's ideas and innovation is properly funded. And the state must also fund and support small businesses, what you call infant industries. These businesses that are small, but that have to be protected from a monopolies and oligopolies. If I want to be a small egg producer, I need to be protected from big egg producers like Ivan's. If I want to be a small chicken producer, I need to be protected from a big chicken producers like the national foods. So this is important. Startups, they have to be protected by the government. Norway, which is celebrated to be one of the biggest economies in the world, is at the center of it very good with funding and startups. What made China to be what it is, no matter how autocratic it is, of course we know that its growth, it is not sustainable, but it has been able to fund local companies or local small businesses for them to be big. China has been having an idea and objective of saying we need to have our millionaires coming from our own countries, coming from our own country, benefiting from the profits in our own country, rather than having multinational companies coming into play. So there's also the need for us to control the capital market movement. Munangagwa says is open for business. Means that is open. There's capital market liberalization. There is a movement of capital coming into it's just good movement of capital moving in and good movement of profits coming out. There are so many negatives that come up with that. That is a debate for another day. So the issue of capital market is very important. The issue of also boosting your own internal domestic aggregate demand is also very important. Your people have to be protected. Your people need to have good enough incomes after tax. Your people need to have should be able to have the buying power. The incomes must have the buying power to buy in their own countries, rather than being an import or supermarket economies here in Zimbabwe, whereby you import everything, or like I said, 70% of the things from South Africa. We need to be buying our own things. Imagine 70% of the imports being substituted by domestic production. How much are we going to be having as a country? So I think there's a concatenation or a synergy of so many economic variables that have to be considered for us to say economy is properly functional. But there must be an honest and decent administration at the center of economic performance. You can come in, Brother Mlambo.
Wow, so profound, Brother Majmaji. Thank you for the insights. I do agree with you. My duty is to comment on what you have said, my brother. The issue in Mozambique is a serious matter. We, as the tete-a-tete, as you and I, we strongly condemn the brutal assaults on women in Mozambique by both the Mozambican army and the militia. We condemn with utmost contempt that deserves the failure by the Frelimo-led government to deal decisively with the security situation in Mozambique. SADC must shape up the crisis in Mozambique. We don't want the crisis that is in West Africa with Boko Haram and other ISIS-affiliated terrorists to be a phenomenon here in the Southern Africa region. So I do agree with you that we have a very bad situation in Mozambique that must be dealt with decisively. But on this one, I don't think SADC alone, but the entire United Nations, through the United Nations Security Council, must immediately come up with a UN resolution, a Security Council resolution. In fact, the United Nations Security Council must convene an emergency meeting of the Security Council members to deal decisively, and when I say decisively, I mean militarily, to crush the terrorists that are terrorizing innocent civilians in Mozambique. We need order in Mozambique. We need stability. We need peace. But on the economy, I love the points that you raised there, Comrade Basopo, in particular issues to do with import substitution. There is no country in this world that can develop economically when it is a net importer. You can only develop economically and create decent jobs, which will mean aggregate demand and more purchasing power in the economy when you are a leading exporter. So this is very important. I like that point when you say that the current account deficit in this country, that there is no balance between the imports and exports. We need a positive a current account. As it stands, we have a negative current account. If you read Professor Mtilingwe's budget midterm review that he presented in Parliament in the first week of July. There's another issue, Brother Basopo, of tax justice.
Yes.
Remember earlier on, I indicated that of the revenue collected between January and June 2020, Mutuli Ngube argues that 94.7% of that money came from taxation, which is around 38 billion Zimbabwean dollars. But when you look on the ground, that there's no clean, safe, and potable water, there's no decent work, there's no decent shelter for our people, you then begin to wonder, where is that money going? So we need to begin conversations, or to have conversations of tax justice in this country. And I would propose, number one, a wealth tax. There are so many rich people in this country. We need a wealth tax for millionaires that are sprouting like mushroom in this country. We need a wealth tax. Why a wealth tax? You tax the wealth heavily so as to finance public services, so as to finance healthcare. It is worrisome that in 2020 we have got women in this country dying while giving birth, maternal mortality rates. It is worrying that in 2020 we have got infants dying upon being given birth by their mothers. Infant mortality rate, Brother Basopo. Yet Mutuli Ncube, the Minister of Finance, is saying, I managed to take 38 billion in the form of taxation from the majority of our people. Such a humongous, such a gigantic amount. So there's no accountability, Brother Basopo, in this country. So public finance management is an important component of the new Zimbabwe that we want. Public finance management should be something clearly defined and respected and upheld. So we need a reform of the Public Finance Management Act in this country. We need to align the Public Finance Management Act with Section 298 of this constitution that we have as a country. If that is done, if there is a clear and genuine will to fight corruption, if really the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, an institution of the state, a constitutionally established institution, if it's really genuine on the cause against corruption, it should prosecute a Priska Mpumira. It should prosecute a Obadiah Moyo. It should prosecute all culprits of corruption, not to tell us that Priska Mpumira is not fit for trial when she stole.
Have you lost our brother Nqobizitha Mlambo there? Fuka.
You went to town, Brother Basopo, in terms of proffering the necessary intellectual thought leadership to revive the economy. But we cannot address issues to do with economic revival if we do not talk, Brother Basopo, about the scourge of corruption. Corruption has destroyed this country. Yes. Recently, Mineral Watch quoted the Minister of Home Affairs, what's his name, Kazembe, where he was speaking at a platform and he argued, I think he was in Mazowe, where he interestingly and sadly pointed out that Zimbabwe is losing 100 million United States of America dollars annually to illicit mineral flows, to illicit financial flows in the gold sector alone. 100 million United States dollars is being lost annually through leakages in the mineral sector, in particular gold. We need clear-cut policies. Number one, let Zimra be capacitated fully to plug these leakages in the mining sector. Let the Mineral Marketing Corporation of Zimbabwe be capacitated and be enhanced fully. Let the National Prosecuting Authority prosecute those who illicitly trade gold and other minerals in this country. Let the Zimbabwe Republic Police, through the CID, law enforcement agencies, as well as the minerals section of the CID, immediately deal with that particular issue of gold leakages as highlighted by the Minister of Home Affairs. If we deal with the yes.
I mean, I just want to sorry for interjecting. On the minerals specifically, I think I'm so passionate of the issue of these hydraulics, these non-renewable resources, these fossil fuels. Like, to talk of different of them, like diamond, we have our own core itself, no matter how much incompatible it is with the 21st century. We also talk of, in fact, all the minerals in Zimbabwe. Number one, we don't have a clear and properly crafted and drafted minerals policy. Specifically, I think we need to have even our own, for example, diamond policy. We know that diamond is one mineral which is very expensive and that you own,
Yes,
but which
yes,
no policy, no citizens know of the policy, no citizen know of the amount of diamonds really that is within the people. And the deals that are given for people to mine things like diamond, they are just rushed into parliament without even properly gazetted to the people through the financial gazette or through the herald. And it is imperative, brother Nqobizitha Mlambo, for the citizens to know exactly who really is getting the deal, on what terms and grounds to mine for how many years, and what amount of diamond are we going to be mining in this particular period. How much are we getting? There is no transparency with issues of the minerals. And some of these countries like Zimbabwe, we are very lucky to have them. But if you are not careful in terms of managing, we end up having what you usually like to call the resource case. Something that we are seeing happening in northern Mozambique, in Cabo Delgado there, where they have one of the best reserves of a gas and one of the best reserves of what you call it, like that natural gas. But it is now a massive and serious problem of internal dispersion, internal fighting. People are now running away from the region. They are being excluded by this gerontocratic elite that I have highlighted before. They are not benefiting from that. And what is next? The citizens will begin to rise up in arms. And opportunists, especially the global north, will come in and intervene, giving weapons to some of these disgruntled people and create instability into the country, which let us spread into the whole world. And so many minerals will be looted. Look at the situation that happened in Northern Africa, in Libya. Look at the situations that are happening in most countries in the Horn of Africa, like Eritrea. Look at what has been happening in Burundi. Like so many other countries, you know them, brother Nqobizitha Mlambo. Look at what the struggle that has been happening in the DRC, what is happening in Southern Sudan. All these are good examples of a failed extractive system to the minerals that are there, to the fossils that are there, by a system. And it ends up becoming a serious and massive problem in the continent, in the country. And Zimbabwe has not yet started being violent. But once violence starts, it can be something. I come from Chad, I always to tell you like that. But they're not even clinics, brother. We don't have water to drink. The people drink the same water from the same source with animals. And how can that happen in a country with the diamond in Nqobizitha Mlambo? I mean, so it's imperative, it's important for us to be looking into this issue. Right now, we have this revival of deals. Mnangagwa is giving the Chinese people to mine from Hwange National Park. They revived recently the contracts that were terminated by Mugabe before leaving in Boshachazwa Marangi. No one now knows what is really happening. The Chinese are looting, and unfortunately, none is left for us. Aluta, continue. Give us your parting sentiments in Nqobizitha.
Thank you very much, Brother Basopo.
Come in,
Wow.
Nqobizitha.
Fantastic submissions, Brother Majimaji. You know, we're a country with potential. We're a country endowed with 66 minerals.
Am I still online, or Mlambo come in?
You are still online. You are still online, Brother Basopo. You are still online. Yes. Thank you. Brother Basopo, can you hear me?
Right. Basopo, what I'm going to say is you are still on live. We can still hear you. And I'm going to ask Mlambo, can you continue? And that trajectory is really important. When you do change over, it is important that you give us a few seconds so that I can allow the photos to come in and you guys will be able to talk. You know what? We're going to give you another 20 minutes. It's very interesting. And viewers and listeners, I strongly encourage you to give us some questions, because this information you are receiving here is very rare. These two gentlemen are a rare breed in Zimbabwe, and I hope some other politicians are also watching. And also,
thank you so much, Comrade Vuka, for the warm complimentary words. Brother Basopo and I are definitely flattered. So as I was saying, Brother Basopo, I hope you can hear me clearly, and listeners can hear, and viewers can hear me clearly, that as you rightfully pointed out, and apparently we now have 20 more minutes, that we are a nation endowed with a lot of mineral wealth, we have 66 minerals in Zimbabwe. Though mining is capital intensive and less labor intensive, but that we have 66 minerals. We shouldn't be poor. Healthcare should be free. We should be having state-of-the-art healthcare. Actually, we should be having medical tourism in this country. People should be coming from the United Kingdom, the United States, to state-of-the-art hospitals to be treated of cancer. People should be coming from India. People should be coming from the far and wide. But as you say, Brother Basopo, the issue of the natural resource case, how do we then make sure that we tap into the mineral wealth base and develop this country? And I was reading the comments on the comment section. Someone was saying it's time for young people to take over. I can't agree more. It is time for young people to take over. Young people, we should organize and stop agonizing. Young people, we should organize ourselves in our social movements and demand for genuine socio-economic transformation in our own lifetime. But we should go beyond organizing. Young people, when we say we want to take over, what do we want to do when we take over the realms or the echelons of governmental authority? I would argue that number one, we should have a strong ideological standpoint. And my point is that young people should identify with the socialist, Marxist-Leninist socialist ideology, because the neoliberal capitalist ideology has clearly failed Zimbabwe from the economic structural adjustment program that started in 1991 to Mutuli Nqube's new neoliberal outlook in the form of the Transitional Stabilization Program, Vision 2030, and the desire to see Zimbabwe as an upper middle income economy. So number one, young people need to identify themselves with a particular Marxist-Leninist ideology, with Fanonian characteristics, Brother Basopo, and some social democratic tenets, i.e. freedom, justice, and solidarity. That is my point. It is debatable. I'm not saying that young people are hegemonic.
Sorry.
I'm not saying that young people are hegemonic.
Mlambo. That language is too deep for most of us. So obviously, some of these things you are explaining, I think it is important that you narrow it down, you make it simple for some of the people to understand. You know, we want everyone so that they can understand what you're talking about. What is this new one you're talking about?
Apologies, brother Vuka and fellow listeners, for the gigantic diction. It is a disposition that comes natural when we begin to cross-pollinate ideas. But what I'm basically saying is that someone in the comments section, Brother Vuka, Brother Basopo, said young people must take over for the old generation, played its part, but it has failed.
No doubt.
So my argument then is, if we are going to take over as young people, we need to organize. What do I mean when I say we need to organize? We need to connect the struggles for food, the struggles for decent shelter, the struggles for decent livelihoods in Malipati, in Checheche, in Cholocho, in Wange, in Hurungwe, in Mzarabani, in Rurao, Konjana, in Garawa, in Bocha, in Guruwe. Let's identify a rallying point. And my point of entry, fellow young Zimbabweans, my point of entry, Brother Vuka, Brother Basopo, is that we should identify with the Marxist-Leninist ideology. Why do I say we should identify with the Marxist-Leninist ideology? Because it is the ideology of the poor, because it is the ideology of the workers, because it is the ideology of the working people, because it is the ideology of the downtrodden, because it is the ideology of the poor rural peasant farmer, the smallholder farmer, the beneficiaries of the fast-track land reform program, who now, because of the capitalist ideology that Mutuli Nqube subscribes to and that the new ZANU-PF subscribes to, unlike the ZANU-PF of Robert Mugabe, which was nationalist in nature, though we had differences with it, but it was clear on the question of land ownership. It was clear on the question of who should own the means of production, because we went to war primarily for us to own the economy, Brother Basopo. So I would argue that we should all be socialists. I know there will be debates as to the feasibility of socialism. I know there will be debates as to the feasibility of Marxism, Leninism in our own context. Do our own people understand it? And this Vuka said that big ways. But I will tell you what socialism means. Socialism means gutsa ruzhinji. Socialism means food for the people. Socialism means an economy that works for the many and not the few. Socialism means taxation that is fair, just, and equitable. Socialism means democratic participation. Socialism means we are taking everything from Harare and decentralizing the state. We are devolving the state, giving power to the branch, giving power to the district, giving power to the headmen, giving power to cooperatives. That is how we are going to organize a socialist economy. I am not saying we do not need foreign direct investment. I do not say that Zimbabwe can go it alone, but I'm arguing that strategic sectors of the economy, Brother Basopo, Brother Vuka, fellow young people, should be owned and controlled by the public. For example, on the transport sector, I am one fan of the ZUPCO mechanism, but I do not argue and I do not support scenarios where we say we are banning commuter omnibuses entirely. But a socialist government, it will just capacitate ZUPCO and make sure that ZUPCO is competitive, ZUPCO is reliable, ZUPCO is efficient through the good principles of corporate governance. So I'm giving these as debates for the point of entry as we try to establish a hegemonic movement of young people that can take the realms of governmental authority. That's what I think should be the alternative. So I will summarize, Brother Basopo, in 3 points. I will summarize in 3 points. 3 points, Brother Basopo. 3 points. Number 1, issue identification. Number 2, issue articulation. Number 3, political communication. On issue identification, what is the big issue that young people from Malipati, from Zambezi, from Chimanimani are identifying with? It is the issue of unemployment and limited access to economic opportunities. So once we identify this issue, we articulate it. That is the second arm of my solution. How do I articulate it? As we are doing now, Brother Basopo, through medias like Facebook, as we are doing now, Brother Basopo, but it should go beyond Facebook so that my brother in Urumbe, my brother in Muzokomba can understand through the production of pamphlets, community-based organizing from below, as we say in the socialist movement. Then when I talk about political communication, it is a scenario wherein, Brother Basopo, would already have arrived at the point of convergence. What I call in my lexicon, Brother Basopo, youth convergence, generational convergence, tapping into the demographic dividend. Constitutively, we constitute 65% of the population. Hence, we should also constitute 65% of the government, and we should govern differently on values, on principles, on sacredness, on respect of the liberation struggle, on respect of territorial sovereignty, on respect of Ubuntu, on respect of Pan-Africanism, on respect that land belongs to the people of Zimbabwe. No white man should be compensated for the land that they took forcefully from our people in the year 1890. They did not compensate us. So when we get in as young people, we are arguing that land is for the people. We are arguing that the economy is for the people. We are arguing that we are going to nationalize all mansions in Borodilbrook, all mansions in Glenlawn, all mansions in Shawasha Hills, and turn them, because those mansions are products of ill-gotten wealth, and turn them into state-owned hotels that will be used for the purpose of tourism and the development of our country. We would turn Sevia Kasukwere's mansion into a public hospital, for example. We would turn Robert Mugabe's blue roof mansion into another state-of-the-art hospital. Why do you need a mansion if you are a civil servant? Why do you need a mansion if you are a minister? When the literal meaning of minister is to serve, we need to fight for the re-socialization, Brother Basopo, of the means of production. So, in short, I say, abasha capitalism, Brother Basopo, abasha the compensation of former white commercial farmers, abasha the TSP, abasha Mtuli Nqube. Thank you so much, Brother Basopo. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Brother Nqobizitha Mlambo. I've been hearing that you have been speaking and you have been properly putting across your facts with regards to your thought process and according to the idea that you think you can be able to implement to make sure that we reassert our society and make Zimbabwe great again. But Brother Nqobizitha Mlambo, being cognizant of the fact that we have spoken for quite a long period of time,
you have to that I have to justify. What it is we've been doing absolutely well, and we are almost about to hit our 1 hour point. It is important that we leave people so hungry to a point that when they come next time, we have to leave them thirsty. So I'm just going to give you, each of you, just 2 minutes to conclude. And I mean literally 2 minutes. We have to stop at 1 hour, and we'll make another appointment with you and our guest again, so that you can articulate all these policies you're talking about, this pollination you're talking about. Is really exciting. The osmosis of ideas between one person who's in Zimbabwe and the other who is in the Scandinavia. Absolutely interesting. So over to you, Comrade Basopo in Scandinavia, Norway. May you kindly give us your last words as soon as you finish. Then we go to Untitled Mlambo program. Yeah,
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Brother Fuka. I was also about to conclude and make sure that we bring this to its conclusion. But I would like to leave with a quote, Brother Mlambo, that I have given from the beginning, that to yield to force is an act of a necessity, not of a will. It is at best an act of prudence. So we can never yield to force, for we do not believe that those who will be illegitimate, they must continue to be given the leadership. The people must govern. The people must one day demand that which belongs to them. We need a proper and functional state which is capacitated by people who have who have thought and digressed and regressed the problems at a mathematical level, and also the problem that have been the solution that have been arrived at a political level. The struggle continues in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe Faradesa, Aluta continua, Moi Africa, Moi Zimbabwe, Moi. Aluta continua. Thank you, President Nqobizitha Mlambo.
Thank you so much, Treasure Basopo, aka Comrade Majmaj. I see the comment section is buzzing. I see the comment section is full of controversies. I see the comment section is full of those who are disagreeing, those who are agreeing. Some are saying we will bring dictionaries next time. Some are saying you should bring interpreters. Next time we'll be using Shona and a bit of Ndebele, a bit of Tonga, a bit of Swati, a bit of Xhosa. But to conclude, Brother Vuka, to conclude, my fellow compatriots, fellow young people, fellow Zimbabweans, I will leave you with a revolutionary quotation by a revolutionary writer, a revolutionary socialist, Comrade Frantz Fanon. I quote, "Each generation must, out of relative obscurity, discover its mission, fulfill it or betray it." I close the quote. Comrades, what is our mission? Have we discovered our mission? How are we going to fulfill that mission? I would argue that only a socialist alternative will lead to a democratic development of Zimbabwe, anchored on the values of freedom, justice, and solidarity. As my brother in Norway, Brother Basopo, loves to say, le mapambayano ilandilendelea. Asante sana. Long live great Zimbabwe. Long live the people of Zimbabwe. Long live the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions, which continues to lead our people towards a working people-led Zimbabwe. Long live to the suffering masses of our people. I thank you. Aluta continua. Follow us on Twitter at Comrade Mlambo and at Comrade Treasure Basopo. Let's continue to engage, comrades. We are welcome to disagreeing views, but more importantly, we will continue to cross-pollinate ideas. We're born to do this, we live for this, and we will surely die for this.
Thank you, brother.
Wait, don't go.
I thank you.
Just hold your horses.
Thank you.
Hold your horses. Gentlemen, I can tell you, I'm feeling even hot just listening to you guys, obviously exchanging ideas. It is very interesting. But I have to also thank our viewers and our listeners who are in the comment section. I can see there is a battlefield. We've created another battlefield in the comment section. I want to say we want to invite you again to this platform, whether as somebody who is in the comment section, or if you want to come on the screen and exchange, obviously, ideas and give an argument to these points raised by this gentleman, you're more than welcome. We're going to make an argument with this gentleman so that they can come back again on this platform or other platforms that we run, so that they can, I so much love what they're talking about. And these type of conversations, you don't usually find them. They're very rare. And we want to strongly encourage you that next time, if you've got any issues, ideas that you need to be discussed, inbox us, follow this gentleman on Twitter or here on Zim Social Network. We are fully available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we shall continue to give you this program. May the wonderful Lord bless you, Comrade Mlambo, Treasure Basopo. Next time, the English itself, to be honest with you, it's even for me a little bit too deep, and we need to try to tone it a little. I know you guys get overexcited, and sometimes you get away and run away with it. But tomorrow or next time we come back, maybe we try to tone it down and use a little bit of Shona, Dewele, or whatever language you are comfortable with, which could benefit our viewers and our listeners. For today, I want to say, Aluta continua, Moi.
Moi, Comrade Moi.